Today we're going to be talking about solving and graphing two-step inequalities. Yesterday, you graphed inequalities on a number line after solving in one step. You did the inverse operation. If you had addition, you subtracted. If you had subtraction, you added. And of course, multiplying and dividing are also inverse operations in solving. So we're going to use the same skills as we used for our inequalities yesterday and as we used for our equation. However, the big key to remember is that we must highlight the coefficient. We need to look at the number in front of the variable because remember, we have to flip our inequality symbol when multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So for each of the problems below, we're going to do that first. We're going to look at the coefficients first. And I'm going to make these larger so we can see them a little easier. Okay. And here's our first problem. It says negative 7b plus 19 is less than negative 16. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to circle the coefficient. And you can see the coefficient is negative 7. So that means right away I need to flip that inequality symbol. So I'm going to change the problem to negative 7b plus 19 is greater than, switching from less than to greater than, negative 16. And now in order to solve, I do the inverse of addition, which is subtraction. My 19s cancel. I still have negative 7b is greater than negative 16 minus 19 is negative 35. And then my second step would be to divide. So b is greater than negative 35 divided by negative 7 is positive 5. Now I'm going to go down to my number line here, and as you can see, my number line is not labeled, so that leaves me the freedom to put my 5 anywhere I'd like. So I'm going to put it right here, kind of towards the middle there. And since it's less than or greater than, as we talked about yesterday, we circle 5. We use an open circle. And if you'll notice, how do I decide where to draw my arrow? Do I draw it up towards the larger numbers or down towards the smaller numbers? And one way to do that is to look at my variable. There's my variable right there. And I'm noticing that for the inequality, the big side is facing the variable. Therefore, I'm looking for all the numbers that are bigger than 5. Let's look at the next problem. We'll slide over here. Now I still need to look at my coefficient. And this time, my coefficient is 11. And since there is a subtraction in front of that, that's considered a negative 11. Therefore, I'm going to have to flip my symbol. So the problem is 13 minus 11d is less than or equal to 79. And now I can solve. So I'm looking specifically at 13. The opposite of 13 is negative 13 or minus. Those cancel. And I still have to bring down the entire negative 11d, which is less than or equal to 79 minus 13 is 66. And my last step is to divide. My 11's cancel, and I have D is less than or equal to 66 divided by negative 11 is negative 6. Now I'm going to put that on my number line, so I'm going to plot negative 6, and this time I use a closed circle because I have it's less than or equal to, and anything with the equal to bar means it's a closed circle. I want to include negative 6. And now I'm noticing there's my variable, and the little side is pointing to the variable, and little side to a variable means little numbers. So I'm drawing my arrow towards the smaller numbers. The next problem I have is Q divided by 7 plus 1 is greater than negative 5. So I'm going to look at my coefficient. This time my coefficient is 7, and it's positive. So I don't need to flip my inequality. So I'm just going to start solving. The opposite of adding 1 is subtracting 1. That leaves me with Q over 7. Remember, my 1's cancel. Sorry, I skipped that step. Is greater than negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. And as we learned yesterday, the inverse of division is multiplication. So I will multiply both sides of the inequality by 7. My 7's cancel, so I have Q on the left is greater than negative 6 times 7 is negative 42. So there's my solution. So now I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to graph that inequality. So at the bottom there, let me scroll down a little bit more so you can see it a little easier. I want to graph Q is greater than negative 42. So I'm going to plot negative 42, and I'm going to circle it. And then the larger side is towards the Q, larger side, larger numbers. The next problem says 14 is less than or equal to 4 minus 2x. So I'm going to find my variable. And now I'm finding my coefficient, and as you can see, it is negative. So I'm going to have to rewrite my problem. I'm going to have to write 14, and I'm changing less than or equal to greater than or equal to. 4 minus 2x. Now, if you still like to keep things neat, you absolutely can do that by drawing your line. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. And negative and subtraction, we're treating the same here. So 14 minus 4 is 10, is greater than or equal to, bring the whole negative 2x down. That's the only thing we did not cancel. And now my last step is to divide by negative 2. 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. Is greater than or equal to x. So now I need to plot this on my number line. So I'll draw in 5, or actually I'll draw in negative 5, excuse me. I'm going to draw a closed circle on negative 5 to represent the equal to part and the greater than or equal to part. I'm going to locate my variable, and I'm noticing that where my variable is, the inequality is the smaller side, and the smaller side represents the less than number. So I need all the numbers that are less than negative 5, and they are down to the left. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So now I have 2a all divided by 7 is greater than or equal to negative 6. So I'm going to see that both numbers with my variable are positive, so I don't need to change my inequality symbol direction. You'll notice the entire 2a is being divided by 7. Therefore, I'm going to have to use multiplication first. And I'm multiplying both sides by 7. My 7's on the left cancel, and I still have my numerator 2a. I'll write my inequality, greater than or equal to, and negative 6 times 7 is negative 42. And my last step is to divide. So a is greater than or equal to negative 21. So let's graph our solution on the number line here. So I'm going to go down. Remember, the inequality is a is greater than or equal to negative 21. I'll write negative 21 on my number line. A closed circle representing the equal to part. The larger side is pointing to the variable. That means I need all the numbers that are larger than negative 21. And all the numbers that are larger than negative 21 are a solution for a. Let's do our last problem. I'm going to look at my coefficient, and as you can see, it's 11. So 11 is a positive coefficient, therefore I don't need to flip my inequality symbol. So I'm just going to start doing the inverse operation. So if I have plus 13, the inverse operation is minusing 13. My 13's cancel. I have 11y is greater than or equal to negative 1 minus 13 is negative 14. And now I'll divide both sides by 11. And so y is greater than or equal to, you're probably noticing negative 14 divided by 11 will give you a decimal. So we're going to leave it in fraction form. Negative 14/11. And the last step is I'll come down to my number line. I'll go ahead and write it above. I'll put negative 14/11 over here. This is a closed circle on negative 14/11 for the equal to part of my inequality. Y is greater than, the larger side is pointing to the variable, therefore I need all the numbers that are larger than negative 14/11.